Good evening. Thank you for joining us for our regularly scheduled council meeting of the Park City Council. It's Tuesday, August 26th at 7 p.m. Ms. Clerk, if you'd call the roll.
Charlie Davidson,
Here.
George Glover,
Here.
Linda Westhafer,
Here.
Charles Schwenke,
Here.
Terry Osborne,
Here.
Troy Hill,
Here.
Brandy Bailey,
Here.
Jim Schrader.
Here.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, and thank you everybody who's here tonight in attendance. If you'll please stand, Pastor Whitting will lead our invocation, and then Councilman Schwenke will lead our pledge.
Shall we pray? Almighty God, our Heavenly Father, we've gathered together this evening to exercise the principles of the constitutional republic that you have established on this land. We're grateful for these principles, and Father, there's a significant agenda that lies before this body tonight. Will your hand rest upon us to put wisdom and compassion, understanding, and spirit of peace among us, that these decisions might be made well and justly. So, Father, we submit this body of representatives and this body of citizens before you for your blessing and your watch care. And I ask you these things in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. May be seated. So much. Start out with approval of the agenda. Jim
I move that we approve the agenda.
and Charlie.
Second.
Okay, motion by Jim Schroeder to approve the agenda as presented, seconded by Charlie Davidson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 8-0. Thank you. Just a little house cleaning. On the agenda sign up, I have Nancy Bowl is signed up. Is she here now? I just didn't want to miss you when we're going through stuff. Which agenda item did you want to speak on? Okay. Thank you. Okay, awards and presentations, do we have anything? Yes, sir. Thank you. I have public forum. Start out with Mr. Bob Aldridge. Welcome. Thanks for being here tonight. You have 5 minutes to speak on your topic. I see you have crosswalk at 61st and Parkview.
I do. Good evening, council members. I'll be really brief. I'd like to have the council consider installing a crosswalk, a non-signalization crosswalk, just painted across 61st Street in the intersection of East Parkview. The reason is there is a lot of traffic at times, and I see a lot of individuals that have motor scooters and electric wheelchairs and things, especially a particular veteran, and they're having an extreme difficult time to crossing over. I know there's a signalization east further, and there's one at Hydraulic and in 61st, but there's quite a difference in yardage between the two, and I just think that it would be nice, especially the council would consider doing that. And also, while you're at it, might as well go ahead and repaint the streets on East Park on the north and the south side too while you're at it, if you elect to do that. So just a request. And then you can put one of the little ballards up that says, stop for pedestrians, which also refers to the state law on there. So I would appreciate it. Stand for any questions or comments. If not, I'll go sit down.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next I have, I apologize, I'm having trouble reading it. Is it Ron Goodman? And there's another name on it? Ron and Mrs. Okay, there's one other person signed up for public forum. Are they here?
For Nancy Bowles?
No, it's on the pink sheet. Did somebody else sign up for public forum on the pink sheet? Okay. Maybe left. Did she say, she didn't write down what her topic was? Did she want to talk?
She said she can't hear, sir.
Okay. Did you want to speak on a specific item, or did you want to come to public forum?
I'd rather not. I have not been here this year. As a matter of fact, I was just coming because I heard it on TV today that you all were having something new coming into the city.
Okay.
And I wanted to be a part of it. However, since I'm up, listen, I wish we do a little bit more in our city about the grass. I live at 6744 North Hydraulic. The lot across from me, I look like I live in a third world country. I have asked very nicely if the city would please mow that grass over there. It's a farm, I think it is.
Yes, ma'am.
But they say they can't do it, and it's all on the highway, right there on the road. Now, I've been there since 1967, and they used to mow that. And I don't know if the other people mowed it or the city did it, but it sure does look awful.
Yes.
In the meantime, I have ridden around in the city, and I see where you all are fixing the things behind the house, the little ditches behind the houses. I see the one down here, it's being revived or done something to, and I've seen another one. So are you all gonna pave those ditches, or what are you going to do? I don't know the order of which I'm supposed to be doing this, so you have to speak.
You're doing great.
So anyway, that's the things that I want to do, and I heard that we were gonna do all this extra for the city, which is lovely. It's lovely, but the thing is, we need to get what's already here.
We agree.
I mean, the
Thank you.
grass, growing sky high, and the weeds, I've never seen them so high.
It's all that
Snakes-
wonderful rain.
Snakes are just taking over my backyard.
Yes. I noticed they got the ditch mowed behind you there. Sean, would you answer a question about the ditches and kind of what those will do? Obviously, I know we're not doing the one behind her house, but just answer that question if you would, since we have a full house. I'm sure they want to hear about the ditches.
Okay. As you know, about 2 years ago, we went through a stormwater master plan, came up with approximately 15 different projects throughout the city. Most of them were tied to either Channel 4 or Channel 6, which are the two largest ditches that run throughout between Denver and those type streets. Currently, right now, we are working on Phase 2. Donlinger is the one with the contract. That starts all the way up by Mobile with next to Applebee's, and it's coming on down. They are smoothing out the ditches. In some particular areas, they are actually putting a concrete liner on the bottom. But in other areas, they're just trying to smooth out the grade, get rid of the trees and the weeds that are there, create some drop structures so that it controls the way that it's going down, and make it to where those ditches could be maintained on a more regular, frequent basis. That is Phase 1, Phase 2. Phase 1 is also approved, but that one's going to start a little bit later on in the year. And then there's Phase 3, which is the final wrap-up session. There's another 5 or 6 projects in that one as well, and it should go out to bid towards the end of this year and would be started right around the beginning of 2026. So it's a total of 15 different projects throughout. This council for years has talked about drainage issues, and finally, we're doing all of the projects at the same time to get them done within the next year and a half. So, does
Thank
that
you.
answer the question, sir?
I believe it does.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. When will we see that, and I didn't get, when are they gonna get started? I know you're doing some of the work now, but when are you gonna, get started on most of it? Like the ditch behind my house, I used to mow that. I did it from 1988 up until now. But I've got arthritis, my husband has had a stroke, and I can't do it. And so I've hired somebody to mow so far, and, he can do so much. And, so I just wondered when you all gonna start doing the ditches, because one of the members that has been on you all about doing it has passed away.
The fact that we have mowed that one, and that is our responsibility.
He was constantly asking you all to do something about our ditch in the back.
Yes.
And they said they were gonna pave it at one time, when he passed away, and they still haven't paved.
Okay, just to clarify, there are no plans currently for the ditch that's located behind her home. It is not paved. I don't think we have any plans in the near future to pave that. The city is responsible for mowing that. And so we did get in there, I think about a week or 2 weeks ago, to give that a good mowing. With our rotation, we try to mow once a month, not as frequent as our park spaces or other right-of-way areas, but we do have to take the heavy equipment down through there in order to mow those areas.
So the answer to that is that ditch is now our responsibility to mow it.
Lovely, lovely. Yeah, I've been calling over and over and over, so finally, they came last week, and I jumped for joy, really.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, that's all I have for public forum. We'll move on. Staff reports, did we have some?
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council. Several updates for tonight. First of all would be the Wendell Water Tower. Work continues on the water tower improvements and preparations to actually repaint the exterior of the tower. So far, the exterior and dry portions of the interior have been completely sandblasted and primed. They are working on the wet interior portion of the tower at this time. No doubt weather conditions have been very favorable over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and if that continues, they're looking for about 3 more weeks to finish up the project. Next would be our senior center. As most of you are aware, there has been a substantial amount of progress over the past month. We've gone from just the foundation being poured to where it's almost completely framed at this point in time. They plan on the building being dried in by mid-September, and then they'll be able to work on the interior space as well before the weather changes and slows them down. So we're still on track for that to close in or be completed in February to March of next year. As far as Phase 2 of the stormwater drainage improvements, again, the contractor will be setting the box culverts on street crossings at East Parkview and Hartford over the next couple weeks. Wet weather has delayed the shaping of some of the channel banks. They did encounter some shallow water lines which need to be lowered, which will impact the schedule, but that does allow our staff the opportunity to replace those lines that were recommended in our water master plan, and so that will be presented at the next council meeting. The last phase of Park Center improvements is streetscapes. That contract has been let, and the staff held a pre-construction meeting this last week with the contractors, and they anticipate the work on that beginning September 8th. Next, we have the 2025 Street Rehabilitation Project. Pre-construction meeting was held today, and the previously approved projects as well on tonight's agenda, there will be proposing of additional projects to make the best of the remaining funds that were allocated. They are projected to start construction in the next 30 to 45 days, starting with Hatton Drive and the Wyndham subdivision entrance, which are both full-depth concrete replacement, and then they'll be doing 2 FDR locations. As far as the new aquatics facility, the contractor began moving their heavy equipment on site earlier today and is expected to start dirt work later this week. And again, that's expected to be open and operational by Memorial Day of next year. Finally, there is Lancaster Square. Council, if you may remember, you supported an application going in about 4 or 5 months ago for a low-income housing tax credit with both the state of Kansas and the federal government. The senior apartment project that was submitted by the Mennonite Housing Group for consideration by both the state and the federal government was approved. For the state of Kansas, there were a total of 49 preliminary applications that were submitted, but only 15 projects were selected and approved, and Park City is one of them. So that will be 50 senior housing apartments located on a 3.5 acre parcel that's just on the north side or right across the street from where the new senior center is being built. As far as a couple upcoming events, partnering with the Kansas Humane Society, there will be a microchip and vaccine clinic on September 6th. It's from 10 in the morning to 1 in the afternoon at the community building in Hat McLean Park. And then finally, there's a citywide garage sale for the fall, which is the weekend of September 27th. That's all I have, sir.
Thank you. Any questions of Sean? Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. Charlie Davidson.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
George Glover.
Yeah, I'll second the motion.
I have a motion by Charlie Davidson, seconded by George Glover to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 8-0. Next, we have discuss and consider appointments to the Community Relations Board. I believe you guys all received applications that were filled out by Ms. Joanna Pfaff and Cody Hamilton that would like to participate and be involved in the Community Relations Board. They would have a term expiring in January 2027 on both persons. George Glover.
Yeah, I don't have any questions. I'm encouraged by the number of residents that are stepping up to fill some of these positions. This is your city. This is what goes on, and you have a say in what goes on in a lot of these committees that we have. So I would encourage people, if you have an interest in something, go ahead and step up and just seek through the city the way to go ahead and apply for those positions. I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the appointment of Joanna Pfaff and Cody Hamilton as a member of the Community Relations Board with a term expiring in January 2027.
Thank you, George. Brandy Bailey.
Second.
Is there any further discussion before we vote? Okay. Motion by George Glover, seconded by Brandy Bailey to appoint both. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 8-0. On to item 2 is hold a public hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and consider approval of the resolution. D.
Good evening. The combined notice of hearing to exceed the revenue neutral rate and budget hearing was published in the Ark Valley News and on our website on August 7th, providing a proposed estimated mill levy for the 2026 budget of 42.902 mills, which is 0.5 mil lower than last year's final mill levy. Since this proposed levy exceeds the revenue neutral rate of 37.776 mills, some additional steps are required prior to holding the budget hearing that is in the next agenda item. Council is required to hold a public hearing on the mill levy to hear public comments, and then before closing the hearing, consider adoption of a resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate. The law requires that the resolution be approved with a roll call vote. A copy of the resolution, a certified copy of the roll call vote form, and other budget documents will be placed on the Department of Administration's website with a conspicuous link on their front page. Staff recommends holding a public hearing, again, on the mill levy for the 2026 budget, and after hearing from interested taxpayers with the public hearing still open, consider approval of resolution to exceed the revenue neutral rate. The state and Sedgwick County Clerk have stressed the importance of reading the motion exactly as stated on the agenda due to a school board member failing to state the word exceed in the motion on the R&R, even though the intent of the board member and all the other board members was to exceed the R&R. They lost the litigation and had to refund all the taxpayers all the amount that exceeded the R&R. So please do state it verbatim if you would.
Okay. All right, we'll open the public hearing. It's 7:20. I don't have anybody signed up for item 2 on the R&R hearing, but if anybody wants to come forward and speak, you're welcome to do so. Again, if there's anybody present that, even though you didn't sign up, if you'd like to come forward and speak on the revenue neutral rate public hearing, you're welcome to do so now. Okay, seeing nobody has come forward, it's 7:21. I will close the public hearing. Actually, did we want to leave the public hearing open while we vote? Okay, thank you. I'm going to leave the public hearing open still. And I would entertain a motion in either direction. Terry?
I move to approve Resolution 1265, 2025, to exceed the revenue neutral rate for the City of Park City 2026 proposed budget.
Jim?
I'd second that.
You have a motion by Terry Osborne and seconded by Jim Schroeder. Do we need to vote still with the hearing open? Thank you. This will be a roll call vote. Ms. Clerk, if you would call the roll.
Terry Osborne,
Aye.
Charlie Davidson,
Aye.
George Glover,
Aye.
Troy Hill,
Aye.
Linda Westhafer,
Aye.
Brandy Bailey,
Aye.
Charles Swanky,
Aye.
Jim Schrader.
Aye.
Okay, that vote was 8-0. Now I'll close the public hearing. It's 7:22. Thank you. Next, we're on to item 3, hold a public hearing and consider approval of the 2026 City of Park City budget. And with this one, I believe I have 2 people that are signed up for this item, so thank you.
For the 2026 budget, will be 1.5 mils lower than before the 1% sales tax was approved, since each of the 2024, 2025, and 2026 budgets were reduced by 0.5 mil each. Our 2026 budget will therefore be $250,213 less than it would be if we hadn't reduced the mill levy in each of those 3 years. That's $250,000. That's a lot of money. The total 2026 total expenditures published were based on budget version number 3. As noted in the previous agenda item, the estimated mill levy is 42.902 mils, which is 0.5 mil lower than last year's final mill levy. Staff recommends holding a public hearing on the budget, followed by approval of adoption of the 2026 City of Park City budget in the amount of $45,368,378, with an estimated mill levy of 42.902 mils. If the budget is adopted tonight, please stop by Marlowe's desk afterwards to sign the certificate. Thank you.
Thank you. And same rules on the public hearing. We want to do that with the hearing open while you vote?
No, just the public hearing, and then you can close this one.
Let's do it different. Okay. I'll open the public hearing at 7:24. And I have, first signed up is Nancy Bowl. You're welcome to come forward.
Hello, and thank you for hearing me. My name's Nancy Bowl. I live at 1501 East 91st Circle North, up north of Park City. So we've lived there for 28 years, and but we were annexed in 2005, I believe. And so from there, it was, our taxes literally like doubled and increased from that annexing. So the amount of tax increase has gone, exceedingly more than what we make in income. My husband, I'm self-employed, and my husband is retired, and we are on a fixed income. So his Social Security and what I make from his pension doesn't hardly budge where we are when it comes to paying taxes. So it would be we would greatly appreciate if it was not increased but decreased. So again, all our savings in IRA is literally shrinking at an alarming rate. So I ask if you consider the decrease instead of the increase. I thank you and appreciate you listening to me. Thank you very much.
Next, I have Kyle Lang.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Kyle Lang. I reside at 8916 North Red Cedar Lane in Park City. Thanks for the open forum tonight. First, I want to express my appreciation for the significant investments you've made in our community. From the new downtown district, the senior center, the upcoming outdoor aquatic complex, the improved parks, the ongoing infrastructure upgrades. These are meaningful projects that elevate our quality of life and make Park City a place where families want to live, work, and play. I fully support the vision and bold steps the council's taken to make that happen. With that said, I'd like to share a concern, not about the current tax increase itself, but about the long-term approach to taxation. My concern centers on sustainability and accountability. Once these major projects are completed, will there be a plan to meaningfully reduce the tax burden? I'm not just referring to small mill levy adjustments, but real measurable decreases in revenue once the need for added investment subsides. Or will the city continue to seek out new ways to innovate and grow? History shows us that governments often struggle to scale back after goals have been met. A good example is what we're seeing in Wichita. Temporary water restrictions introduced during a drought were recently made permanent, even though Cheney Lake is nearly full. It's a reminder that policies meant to be temporary can quietly become permanent, even when the original justification no longer applies. I bring this up not as criticism, but as a caution. I believe Park City residents have been supportive because they've seen a clear connection between higher taxes and visible worthwhile improvements. But long-term trust depends on transparency and on a demonstrated willingness to adapt when circumstances change. My hope is that if at some point the city chooses to pause or slow new investments, it will return some of that increased tax revenue to residents by holding the line on the revenue neutral rate rather than exceeding it year after year. Thank you again for your time, your service, and your commitment to improving Park City. I'm excited about our future, and I simply encourage us to move forward with both vision and fiscal discipline. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, they were the only two that were signed up to speak on item 3, but since it is a public hearing, I would invite if there's anybody else that's present that wants to speak on this item, you may come forward now. Not seeing anybody, I will close the public hearing at 7:29. And I would entertain a motion. Jim Schroeder.
I would move to approve adoption of the 2026 City of Park City budget in the amount of $45,368,378 with an estimated mill levy of 42.902 mills.
Charles Swanky.
I will second that.
The council, is there any further discussion on this item? Okay. Motion by Jim, seconded by Charles Schwenke. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0. Thank you, Dee, for your work on this. Next, we're on to item 4, discuss and consider an ordinance creating a Star Bond District. Garth.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Garth Herman with Gilmore and Bell, the city's bond counsel. Appreciate you having me here tonight. I thought that it might be helpful just to kind of have a brief recap of what we've done to this point, and then lay out some of the procedural steps that the city council and governing body will face tonight. So, as you may recall, back in 2023, the city council took action to formally create a Star Bond district related to the Champtown development. That was done with city council action as well as in conjunction with the Champtown Development Partners and the Department of Commerce on behalf of the state of Kansas. Since that point, those three partners, the state through the Department of Commerce, the city, and Champtown, have been working together in order to pull together and put together this project plan that will be the subject of discussion tonight. Back in July, you took action to formally call this public hearing on the project plan that is associated with the actual development of the Champtown project within that district that was formally created back in 2023. You provided notice as required by statute, both on the website, by mailing, and by publication in the city's newspaper. And therefore tonight, kind of the actions that you will have before you are, one, there will be a presentation that will be made by representatives on behalf of the Champtown Development. After their presentation, the City Council will need to hold a public hearing and open it up to public comment for members of the public to be able to come up and discuss the project that is being presented. At the end of that public hearing, you'll need to close the public hearing, and at that point, there is an ordinance that has been prepared by my firm and provided to you that will be considered by the City Council. Should that ordinance be passed by the governing body, it would require a 2/3 vote of the governing body. Assuming that that ordinance does get passed and that will formally approve the project plan as presented, the steps after that then would be to get the formal written approval from the Department of Commerce, which we have received informal approval to date. So we would get the formal written approval from them. And then the next steps would relate to completing the discussion with the financing partners in order to provide the money and the funds necessary to actually put this project plan into motion. So with that being said, if you have any questions for me, I'm more than happy to take them at this time, but if not, then I will I'll turn my time over to Todd LaSala with Stinson, who represents the developer, and I believe he has a presentation he would like to walk through with you as well. Turn it over to you, Todd.
Thank you, Garth. Mayor, City Council, I'm Todd LaSala from the Stinson firm. Very pleased to be before you tonight. I think we have an interesting and exciting presentation for you. As Garth said, we've been working together with your staff for a long time, as well as the Department of Commerce to get here. There's a lot that goes into a thing like this, but we are very excited, very pleased to be in front of you tonight. I also, before I go further, should say to you something you probably already know, which is that your professional staff, your team is second to none. Sean is great to work with, really understands what we're doing here, is very strategic and thoughtful about the approach, and Garth and Dom are as good a bond counsel as there is in the business. I have done a lot of Star Bond projects in this state, starting with the first one, and your team is second to none. So with that as prelude, if I could have the next slide, we'll get started. So Garth touched on this, but the process is sort of this. You start with the formation of a district. You may think to yourself, I've been hearing about this a lot longer than when we started in June of 2023, and that's true. Sean would tell you it feels like a lifetime that we've been working on this, but the truth is that you originally approved the district, formed the district on the night of June 23rd of 2023. That's really the first step. The second step in the process is really tonight, consideration of a project plan, which really puts a lot more meat on the bones than the district plan that we heard about in 2023. Our team had a lot of ambition, had some drive. I'll talk about kind of where we were then and what's on the table now. It's largely the same project, but we've added some components, and we think it's exciting. The third step in the process is really a development agreement. Your team and ours have been trading drafts of a development agreement and negotiating. I think all of that's been productive and positive. There are details to work out, but I feel like we're making progress, and so I think that by the time we come back and start talking about issuing bonds, issuing temporary financing, that development agreement will come in tandem and be presented to you in some detail. As Garth mentioned, these things all happen in tandem with the Department of Commerce from the state. It's mostly their money involved when you're talking about STAR bond projects, and so they are with us every step in the way. With the district, you may remember that we had some hiccup there where we had to come back a couple of times. With the district, the department has to approve before you can take action. With the project plan, the Department of Commerce can take action after. And that's what would happen here. Having said that, we are very collaborative with them, very transparent with them. They have seen this project plan. We have talked to them about it. There are not surprises to them, so we have great confidence that they will approve this after you would take action. Not to be presumptuous at all, but if you choose to vote for this tonight, we hope you do, we have good reason to believe that the department is likely to follow suit. Next slide, please. Okay, I mentioned this a minute ago. When we started and you approved a district plan, well, what was on the table then? We were talking about really two major attractions and then a bunch of retail to support the project, really entertainment-focused retail. The two big attractions were a world-class aquarium and a mixed martial arts athletic facility, multi-sport athletic facility, probably attached to a hotel. All of those components are still on the table. And our team, Champtown fully intends to deliver those components. And the good news is there are some additional things that have come out of the work that we've done since we were here in 2023. Among other things, we've made a really interesting partnership with a group called Boardwalk Entertainment, Boardwalk Ventures. They're from Phoenix. They operate a really cool aquarium in Phoenix, Arizona, and they really have a smart design for their approach to these things, including a boardwalk that we have now integrated into the project plan that we want to deliver here. When you go visit there, and I recommend that you do if you get the chance, you see that the aquarium and the butterfly exhibit, and I think a laser maze are all right around this central courtyard where they have events, and it's a really interesting, well-designed gathering space. And so Champtown now wants to really replicate that here in Park City. We also would like to bring the butterfly pavilion, the butterfly house to this project as well. It was not a component we were talking about in 2023, but having seen what Boardwalk Ventures has done and how well it fits for a family that is coming to visit, and they like to dual ticket these things and have families do more than one thing. We think it would be a great addition to this project, and I'll show you some pictures in a minute. The retail, the restaurants, the entertainment, and hotel components are really taking shape. We're going to provide a little detail and an update about where we are on that. It's still very much a part of the project, and what you're going to hear is, since we've started, there is really great progress on the retail and entertainment front. All right, this is our site plan. Most of you know, I assume all of you know the site. It's about 155 acres. It's located west of Interstate 135. It's north of 53rd Street North. It's south of 61st Street North, and that's where it's located. This shows you the entire ambitious plan, including all of the retail that could be on board. The boardwalk component will focus in on, next slide, please, a little tighter. The area in blue is the aquarium. To the right of that, you'll see a retail building, and then the butterfly house would be just to the right of that. The MMA and the hotel are those kind of three boxes connected to each other. And that circular area kind of represents, all of that is done around a boardwalk concept that I talked about. So that's the conceptual design. This is an elevation of what could be the exterior of the aquarium building. When we talk about world-class aquarium, that really is the ambition here. Next slide, please. And the guys are pretty far along. I should mention, you'll hear from Ryan Mills, but Jeff Lang is here. It's a really great team that has this as its vision. But they have spent some real money with design teams putting together what we think is a design for a world-class aquarium. Next slide, please. This is 2 different levels of the same aquarium. 750,000 to 1 million gallons of water is sort of what we expect, to give you some sense of the scale. These renderings that I'm going to show you, as well as the floor plans and the elevations, again, all of it is highly conceptual. So please don't fall in love with any one element or thing here. All of this is pretty high level. That we have a long way to go on design for this aquarium, but we are trying to give you a sense of what's on the board and what we are doing with the design team. We think it's really exciting and would be an amazing attraction for Park City. Next slide, please. Okay, with the butterfly house, these are not conceptual designs. These are actually all photos from the butterfly house in Phoenix that I mentioned. So you will see actual pictures. It is really a beautiful indoor botanical garden that is teeming with butterflies. So it is great family fun. This is a koi pond that they have in the one in Phoenix. I hope this gives some sense of scale and the fun that this is. Next slide, please. And frankly, as you walk through, it is it's an immersive experience as you walk through. It feels a little bit like a rainforest. It's very humid in there, and it is very common for butterflies to land on you. This is the entryway where donors usually have their names on the butterflies. Okay, with the MMA facility, this is perhaps the most conceptual. These are really renderings from stock footage, so I don't want to pretend that this is what we have designed, but it is designed to give you, these slides are intended to give you some sense of what we hope to deliver in connection with a hotel at the project. Next slide, please. Bare knuckle fighting, legal in Kansas. These activities, I have a son who is very into this, so I have ingested a lot of these fights. It is terribly violent, but wildly entertaining. So again, this is a multi-sport athletic facility, so it is not just about fighting. It is intended to be available to be used for other sports, including volleyball and basketball and other uses as well. All right, the Starbond project plan. Again, why we're here tonight. The project plan is going to provide a lot more detail than what we did when we asked you to form the district. And the plan calls for all of the attractions that I'm talking about, and it gives you some sense of the scale. 80,000 square feet in the aquarium, 12,000 square feet for the butterfly house. The multi-sport complex with the MMA fighting, a 40,000 square foot multi-purpose facility. The hotel that is likely to be connected is probably in the neighborhood of 150 to 200 hotel rooms and likely to be connected. And retail, I'm going to pause for just a minute. Our plan talks about 225,000 square feet of retail, restaurant, and family entertainment. I'm going to ask Ryan Mills to come up at some point quickly here and talk about this. But what you're going to find is that we're working very hard on the contracts and leases and purchase agreements that would put together that retail. All of that, by the way, is in addition to the retail concepts that are aquarium and butterfly. Those are not included in the 225. That's extra on top of that. But what you're going to hear from Ryan that I think is exciting is the amount of square footage that he's got under contract or under lease. Now, that doesn't mean that those are non-contingent and 100%. Of course, there's a diligence period with the contracts, and sure, some of the leases are contingent. But there's a continuum in real estate world when you put one of these things together, starting with folks who have interest and you start talking to. An important step in the retail process is, well, hey, we've got a letter of intent where we've agreed to terms and what the rent might look like and what the timing would be. And that's some level of commitment. By the time you fully negotiate a lease or purchase agreement, everybody's pretty serious. So So I want to, as you see slides here in a minute about our level of contractual commitment, I don't want to mislead you in any way. Some of them are contingent. Some of them are a pretty long way into their diligence period, and some of these retailers could back out. That could happen. But our retail work is pretty mature. One thing I meant to say a minute ago, and I should have, but I'm just here riffing. You may ask yourself about why we had a groundbreaking at this site about 13, 14 months ago. But I would tell you that it's largely about this. There were two things going on at that time. And one was we were about to get started with a bunch of infrastructure we have to do to make this project a reality. There's a ton of infrastructure work that has to happen. And that was getting started. And it really demonstrated this team's commitment to this site, to this project, to this vision. And so we thought that was a good opportunity to celebrate that activity. But make no mistake, it was also about telegraphing to the retailers that we were talking to, this is how serious we are. And that groundbreaking has established some momentum. And I think when you hear from Ryan, you'll see that strategy has really played out. That strategy has really worked. Next slide, please. There's a bunch of numbers in your project plan, and I'll hit a few of them tonight from a very high level, and I'm happy to answer any questions. The estimated budget for the entire project is about $519 million. Huge number. Most of that is money that the Champtown Partnership will have to put in. Yes, there's a lot of incentive as well. And some of this will be money that is spent by retailers who get their site and then build their building. But the total capital investment we're talking about out there is nearly $520 million. Of that amount of money, we think about $198 million of that is likely to be eligible for STAR bonds. Now, we're not the ultimate arbiter of whether it's eligible or not. That's really Garth and Dom. But this is to say that there are a lot of eligible costs. And the approval that we've requested from both the city and the state, and we have an approval letter from the state for $145 million of STAR bonds, which is about 28% of the total project costs out there. Next slide, please. The STAR bond project plan also requires by statute that there is an economic impact study, a feasibility study, and this one was hired by PGAV, who's a great consultant. You see in the STAR bond world a lot. They're out of St. Louis, very sharp. They have projected a bunch of good things that would happen if this project comes to fruition and if we deliver. Among those things, you'll see really interesting construction job numbers. There'd be construction going on out there for years, and there's a lot of jobs and a lot of construction wages. The stabilization jobs, which include not just the jobs on site, but indirect jobs that are likely to result from the economic development activity about having all of this visitation and all of this capital investment in your community, between 2,500 and 3,300 stabilization permanent jobs. Economic impact annual, there's a range here between $332 million and $417 million annually. Huge impact. And visitation. A project like this obviously aimed directly at visitation. How do we bring new people to this part of the state, to this part of the community? And there's a lot of numbers in the study about this. The one that I've highlighted is really about the aquarium because the aquarium's the star of the show. We think that the annual visitation for the aquarium is likely to be 750,000 people annually. The great thing about that, and the STAR bond criteria requires us to look at sort of where does that visitation come from? And the answer is that 40% or more of that is expected to come from more than 100 miles away from the location, and about 35% of it is likely to come from outside of the state. And that's just the aquarium alone, right? That does not include all the other great stuff that's going on out there. Status of retail, this probably is where I'm going to invite Ryan to come up and join me. But as I mentioned before, in addition to the aquarium, butterfly attractions, and the MMA, where you've got over 100,000 feet of arguably retail attractions. In addition to that, I want Ryan to touch base and kind of give you an update about where he's at with the retail and the restaurants and the entertainment. Ryan, there you are.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having us this evening. I think Todd's done a terrific job laying this out. I'll just kind of hit some of the brief highlights and keep it brief. What you really feel and see here is what I believe is a culmination of 5 to 6 years of really hard work and effort by the community, the city, the sales teams, vendor partners, across the board. What it resonates with me is that you realize that this project is warranted, wanted, and needed in the city of Park City, and that this is the right place for it to be. And I think that has always started with this city. To that, we've seen really contract commitments that are in excess of 250,000 square feet that are different retail product and service providers that are under contract, as Todd alluded to, in varying degrees of their diligence currently, but all trending the right way because of a consistent approach from the collective team on delivering for all of these clients. In addition to that, we see 50,000 square feet of LOI commitments. What I feel like there is, as the big box retailers and some of the other certain retailers execute on the contracts and the agreements that we have, and as we work through those, you're going to continue to see momentum build from that, and those LOIs converted into leases, sales contracts, et cetera, that are all being contemplated now. We've also seen the hotel operator, we're under LOI, we're not under contractual commitment from them at this point for what really would be a well-suited addition and product to Park City to service all of the planned visitation and from a regional perspective that will really enhance the project. So we are excited, we're grateful to be here. We appreciate everybody's effort through this process and your continued support and investment in the Champtown project, and look forward to our next steps.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. As I mentioned earlier, I do a lot of these. When you've got 300,000 feet of retail and entertainment space that is on the board between a combination of contracts, leases, and letters of intent, you got a project that's pretty mature, pretty real. So we're pretty excited about where Ryan is with all of that. And again, enormous work. It takes enormous work to get there, and he's done a great job. So next slide, please. Okay, what happens next? If you were to vote to approve the Starbond project plan tonight, and importantly, this requires a supermajority of the council. It is not a simple majority. It's the only step in the process that requires it. So it is an important step. If you are to do that, well, what happens next? Well, number one, we'll be very grateful. Number two, we will get to work on finishing the development agreement with your team so that we can bring that back to you. And in October or November of this year, we're likely to come back and ask for some temporary notes, an issuance under the Starbond Act of some temporary financing to really get us started and continue the very expensive work as we go to schematics design on the aquarium. And so we're likely to be asking for that. We have an underwriter that we've started talking to who thinks it's possible to do temporary notes that are issued in anticipation of the ultimate Starbonds that we can issue out there. They would also probably do that with the Community Improvement District around the same time. But our goal is to be back here in October or November with some specific financing requests that are a starting off place. Ultimately, we're going to come back again later with a full-blown public sale of Starbonds that we think would take out the temporary notes and really get to the maximum allowance available of 145 million. But honestly, that's going to take some time. That's going to take years, not months, years. And of course, the other part of the capital stack is the developer's private equity and debt. They're already carrying a lot of costs on this project, but you can expect that there is likely to be some conventional financing that comes from an institutional lender. And this is a word or two about the timing. I've mentioned some of this before, but I want to be real specific and real transparent about how long this is going to take. So I mentioned a minute ago that we're likely to come back in the fourth quarter with some interim financing and some temporary notes. Again, I think that's hopefully October or November. The design of the aquarium takes a very long time. And you might ask yourself why. The answer is these are the most complicated buildings in the real estate world. It's one thing to put up an industrial warehouse. It's another thing to put up a restaurant or an office building. The design of aquariums are enormously complex because of the life safety systems and the water and the chemistry and all of that you have to get precisely right or the species die. So I have been around these in the schematic design process, and 14 to 18 months. I know it seems like a long time. I'm telling you that's about right. Similarly, the construction of an aquarium also takes a long time. 14 to 18 months is what we think. And again, all of those same things you have to get right as you implement. And frankly, on these buildings, there's a lot of commissioning at the end when it feels like it's all built and ready to go. But the truth is they run a lot of water through and they spend a lot of time making sure that the chemistry is right before they go on exhibit with the species, again, to make sure that the fish don't die. So as we sit here right now, you could be adding that up and thinking, well, 3 years, 2028 or 2029, that's the timing. That it really is. So I'm sorry that it's a long time. There's no way to speed it up because you really risk the life and safety and health of the animals that you're trying to curate. Having said that, even though the aquarium might not open until 28 or 29, we think other components will. We think a bunch of this great retail that Ryan is landing will open. We have some ambition about doing the butterfly house early if we can. Some of this is going to depend on how the temporary financing comes together and when we start. But we think that we're going to start, you'll start seeing some steel coming out of the ground next year. And then a public sale of Star bonds, when would that actually happen? When would we ultimately go out publicly and do $145 million? We're going to do it as fast as we can. It is somewhat dependent on the retail and the revenue that's available. We'll do it the first opportunity we get. We think it could be as late as 28 or 29 around the time the aquarium is opening. Next slide. I mean, that's just my ugly mug. So we're done. I know this was a lot, Mayor. Thank you for your time and your patience with me, but we thought it was really important to download as much of this information, be as transparent as we could with you. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about anything, but thank you very much. We're very appreciative and grateful to be here tonight.
Just a couple questions I want to have. First of all, I want to say thank you. I feel like the timelines are very important to me. I feel like there's been a lot of hype in the Champtown project, and a lot of people think that it's coming, and it was supposed to happen last week. So being realistic in expectations from us and the community of knowing when we're going to start hitting these milestones are important to me. You mentioned when you started that you'd done several other projects, starting with the first one, and I'm just curious if you could elaborate a little bit on what ones have you done, and then help me understand what were the timeframes of those.
Yeah, the first ones were Kansas Speedway and Village West in the unified government, kind of catalytic, kind of changed the environment out there. The Speedway happened relatively quickly, but they had complete control of the environment. Village West took, the funny thing is, as I stand here, Mayor, the team when we started thought we could get fully negotiated and be out issuing bonds in 6 months, and it was enormously naive. It took a couple of years to get all of the documents lined up and go issue bonds initially, and then the construction took I want to say we started that one in Village West in '99, and things started opening in 2002 and opened in serial fashion until probably 2004 or 5. So that's a great example of kind of the time that it takes when you've got multiple retailers, multiple concepts opening, and this has the layered complexity of a very, nothing I'm mentioning there has the complexity of an aquarium building built into it. Other examples that I think would follow similar timeframes would be Blue Hawk at Overland Park. We did the Starbond projects in Dodge City. We did Prairie Fire in Overland Park. We did Sporting Kansas City's stadium in Kansas City. I've done a bunch of them in Kansas City, Kansas, because I represent the unified government there, and so I've been on the municipal side of those. We also did the Schlitterbahn one that has now been readapted and become the Home Field project. So they're have a long history with these.
Okay. Very good, thank you. Council, is there any questions of Todd?
Yeah, I have a question. On your visitor 750,000 that you're thinking, what are you basing that off of?
Yeah, other aquariums. When you go look at PJV's study, and I could probably pull it up if you wanted to go into real detail about it right now, what they have done is gone and looked at other similarly sized aquariums that are kind of within the Midwest, the same trade area, and figured out, well, how many square feet are those and where is it located? Is it in an urban or a more rural environment, and how do those do? And so PJV, that's not our number. That's really the number that's in the feasibility study. And when you go look at that section of the feasibility study, you'll see a lot of detail about what those aquariums are, why they chose those as comparables, and how they derived this number.
So based on that information, you can't really assure us that we're going to have 750,000.
I can't give
That's
you.
a guesstimate.
Yeah. It's a projection. I'd say it's an educated projection.
In lieu of problems with weather, construction, and timeframes.
For
This
sure.
thing could go on till 2029, you said?
Yeah.
And see, that's the concern I have.
Sure.
is
It's a long time.
We've been told, well, this happened, this investor pulled out. I was under understanding back in June that the retailers were going to start coming in and building. Haven't seen anything of that happening. So could you give us an update on what's going on with the investing aspect, and somebody pulled out, or can you just let us know what's going on?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, what I would say to you is that this is, and I don't mean to seem amused, it's just that this is my experience with all of these. Every developer I've ever worked with has ambition for it to happen faster and want it to. And they have the drive and the plan, and they just all take time. They all take time. I remember, actually, this is funny to me, but I'll share this with you. I think the first time we were here, we talked about when we could potentially come back with a project plan, and it took longer than this, but the team back there was mad at me at the time, like, you think it's going to take us a year to get back there? I'm like, yeah, I think it'll take every bit of that. So that's a common theme with all of them. These are hard, right? A thing like this, it's one thing if you have complete control. If you're going to go out and build one building and you're going to own it and operate it and decide when you open, as was the case with Sporting Kansas City's stadium, they got complete control of that environment. That's more predictive. That's easier to know when you're really gonna open. When it's this, when it's huge, ambitious, multiple components, and you frankly have to rely on the retail to actually show up, write a letter of intent, convert that letter of intent to a lease or a binding purchase agreement, all of that takes time, and you don't have complete control of it. Mm-hmm. So what I would tell you about this is, yes, the city, the community has had to be patient, but I think it's worth it. When you look at what's on the board and you hear Ryan tell you, I've got 300,000 feet of retail that is under contract or LOI, this thing is for real. You mentioned investors coming and going. My experience with these is that happens too. It is not uncommon. And did it happen here a little bit? Yeah. But, you know, Mr. Lang's in the back of the room. We've talked about the wherewithal to do this. And the incentive, don't get me wrong, the incentive is a huge part of the equation. Without that, this doesn't happen. But do we have confidence that we can go get the construction financing to do the rest of it? Do we have the equity to do the rest of it? We feel very comfortable sitting here right now and telling you yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of Todd from council? Thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Lane? And, sorry, hang on just a second, Kyle. I don't believe I opened the public hearing yet on this. I'm gonna open the public hearing at 8:06. Wait, Kyle, welcome.
Good evening, I'm back. Do I need to restate name? Kyle Lang, 8916 Red Cedar Lane, Park City. I want to start saying I support the vision of the Champtown Star Bond. I love the uniqueness and creativity. I love the possibilities it brings in helping shape Park City into an entertainment destination. It's bold, it's creative, and it has the potential to bring real energy and economic growth beyond my lack of energy before you. I also believe in going into things like this with eyes wide open. Across Kansas and beyond, we've seen Star Bond projects that started with big dreams but ended with cities left holding the bag. We can look no further than the new ballpark in Wichita, where the city of Wichita is reserving general funds to make the annual bond payments because of its official statement for the bonds requiring it to tap into its local available sales tax fund. Or about Platte County's Zona Rosa, where bonds fell into junk territory despite contract language meant to shield them from liability, even when there was technically no obligation for a bailout. The legal language might say the city isn't responsible, but in the real world, that doesn't always stop the financial or political fallout. And that brings me to my biggest concern is what happens if this project doesn't turn out as planned? Not because anyone failed, but simply because development is unpredictable. Costs rise, timelines shift, visions get scaled back. We've seen this before time and time again on this very land over the last decade. What if Champtown opens but only part of it gets built? What if the butterfly exhibit gets put on hold or the aquarium is reduced to half? What if the Ferris wheel disappears like it did at the Wichita ballpark? Or if the hotels and restaurants never come? What if the district doesn't generate the foot traffic or sales we're hoping for? Does the city have a clear plan for that? Are we prepared to handle the shortfall if sales tax revenue doesn't meet projections? I know the answer is that the private holders will foot the bill, but does it ever actually end up that way? It seems that governments in general would rather bail out struggling projects than risk seeing the next Wild West world in their own backyard. I'm not asking these questions to throw cold water on the project. I'm asking because I want it to succeed, and I want our city to succeed with it. That means being proactive, not just hopeful. So tonight, I actually support the council with moving forward with this, but to do so thoughtfully. Let's build in safeguards. Let's insist on transparency. Let's set milestones and accountability measures. And let's have a real public conversation about what we'll do if the reality doesn't quite match the vision. Because we've seen that when developers protect their interests and municipalities are the conduit for financing, that future city councils and taxpayers are often left cleaning up the mess. Wichita continues to live this reality with their WaterWalk Star Bond to this day. Thank you all for your time and for the work you do to shape Park City's future. I truly hope Champtown becomes one of our proudest achievements. I just want to make sure that we're protecting the people of Park City along the way. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Okay, while this is a public hearing, anybody else that's present would like to come forward to speak, you're welcome to. You would just state your name and address, please. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, I am Robert Tolam, the pastor at Word of Life Church. We have Life Prep Academy, the old Best Western. And I'm shocking my wife by coming up here. Not that preachers don't hug microphones, because we do. And by the way, that preacher did a great job in that prayer. I want to get to know him because I don't. But the reason why I came up here is I've had a lot of people pitch me ideas in the past as a pastor. We have hundreds of churches overseas, schools, orphanages, and things like that. Even though we're a little footprint right here in the Midwest in Kansas, we do have a worldwide ministry. I've been sold a lot of bill of goods over the years, and I've almost always caught it before I jumped in. There's only been a few where I jumped in, but then caught it shortly thereafter and never really got hurt in the process. I want to tell you something. When they say that they have 225,000 approximate square feet already under either letter of intent or contract, towards the contract thing, they could have more right now. For example, I talked to Ryan Mills a couple of years ago, and I said, Ryan, we're your biggest customer at the sports forum, Matt Beatty and these guys, and now you're across the street, and we want to give you a ton of business. It's chump change in the whole scheme of things, but it's a couple of hundred athletes working out every day at their facility, and all our teenagers spend all their parents' money, whether their parents know it or not. A lot of these kids we bring in are extremely wealthy from famous families overseas. Some are regular type kids from regular families, but some of these kids have the most ridiculous amount of finances. You can ask the Jumpstart, we are making them flat out rich. That's right next to us. I wonder if we would do better than the hotel that was there before. It's hands down, is a straight line from our building, right to there all day long. You can just ask him. But what I want to say is this to Ryan, who's over here. I only know him a medium amount, but what I do know is very impressive. Let me tell you why. We were ready to sign a letter of intent a couple of years ago. We wanted to jump in there before maybe others took the space and time we wanted. And he says, I'm protecting you. I'm thankful that you're willing to do it now. We want to make sure we hit this milestone and this milestone so we don't sign you up for something we can't deliver. And when we get really close to being able to deliver, then we'll take your money or your contracts or your commitments. So I want to tell you that number would be higher today because we're ready to do things, but he's holding off. So while I can't speak for the integrity of all the guys because I only know a few of them, I can tell you for darn sure that Ryan Mills is not smoke and mirrors.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else present that would like to come speak on this item?
I'm getting old. Bob Aldrich, 1420 East 61st Street, North. I want to speak briefly about support of the project. There's so much stuff going on in Park City right now. It's extremely exciting, not only with the Champ Town, but also the downtown business district that's going in right now. Gillies, and that's a multi-million-dollar investment right there. A lot of people question that, and it's sure coming out pretty good, isn't it? The economic impact that all three of these items will have on Park City is going to be tremendous. Looking forward to it. I think it's a great plan, and it takes time. It's not going to happen overnight, and I would hope that the council would support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else present that would like to come forward and speak? Okay, I will close the hearing at 8:14. And next, I would entertain a motion from the council. Terry.
I move to approve ordinance 1216-2025, an ordinance of the city of Park City, Kansas, approving the Star Bond project plan pursuant to KSA 1217-160 ET SEQ, and making certain findings in conjunction therewith, Park City Star Bond plan.
Charlie.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Terry Osborne, seconded by Charlie Davidson to approve. This will be a roll call vote, and I believe I also vote in this. Thank you.
Jim Schrader,
Aye.
Charles Swinky,
Aye.
John Lanier,
Aye.
Charlie Davidson,
Aye.
Troy Hill,
Aye.
Linda Westhafer,
Aye.
Terry Osborne,
Aye.
George Glover,
Nay.
Brandy Bailey.
Aye.
8-1. Thank you. Next, we're on to item 5, discuss and consider an appeal of the denial of the North Park Industrial Second Edition final plat for property located 1/2 mile south of 69th Street North and 1/2 mile west of Broadway. Can we just pause for just a second?
Absolutely.
Mayor, can we take a motion? Can I make a motion for a 10-minute break? I'll make a motion for a 10-minute break.
Charlie.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to take a 10-minute break. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0. It's 8:17. 29, I'm sorry. We're back in session from our recess. We are on item 5. Russ, thank you. We're discussing, consider the appeal and denial of North Park Industrial Second Edition of final plat for property located 1/2 mile south of 69th Street North and 1/2 mile west of Broadway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members, Russ Davies, subdivision administrator. This was a plat application filed in March of this year, scheduled for April. Planning Commission meeting, staff at that time recommended denial on 2 points: lack of public street access per the subdivision regulations, as well as a unapproved drainage plan for this property. The applicant requested a deferral and subsequent deferrals, so we finally had it scheduled for August 18th, by which time the drainage plan was tentatively approved or approved by both the city of Wichita and Sedgwick County. Wichita maintains that drainage channel, and Sedgwick County lies within the area to the north and to the west. So what we had for our August 18th meeting was still a recommendation for denial based on the lack of public street access for what is zoned industrial and for industrial development. During that meeting, there was quite a bit of discussion regarding the intent of the use of this property by the applicant's agent, I should say, none of which went to the heart of the matter for staff. At the end of that discussion, there was a motion that failed due to a lack of a second for approval. Whenever staff recommends denial, we always address approval and the conditions of approval. Had the Planning Commission chosen to override staff opinion and approve the project, following that failed motion to approve, the Planning Commission denied the application 5-1. As in our allowed in Article 11 of our subdivision regulations, the applicant chose to appeal that decision to the governing body. And I will stand for any questions. The applicant and the applicant's agent are in attendance as well and can answer any direct questions that you may have. I'll answer any questions that you may have of me at this moment.
Well, it might be more appropriate to invite the appellant up and they can state their case. They're the ones that are here to appeal and ask you to override what the Planning Commission determined.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. After that Star Bond presentation, this is a little anticlimactic, so let's get through it. Appreciate that. But thank you for the opportunity to be here and to make the appeal. It's something in your subdivision regs that isn't always afforded the opportunity in a lot of jurisdictions. But I wanted to address it because I was not at the meeting. I was out of town on some personal business, and so was unable to attend. But as I understand it from my agent who was at the meeting and the discussion that occurred at the meeting was maybe perhaps what we've lost is a little bit of the can't see the forest because of the tree in front of us example. And so I wanted to just address that and then to ask you to approve the plat subject to a compromise that was offered at the Planning Commission meeting. One of the things, just for clarification, when we talk about access, there was some confusion about public access. This property has public access. By state law, no property can be landlocked. It's a requirement, the state statutes. And so in this aerial photograph, you see the kind of the tree line that bisects that highlighted area, that south end. There's a 10-acre tract that's triangular in shape. That's actually owned by a different property owner. Always has been a separate ownership for that 10 acres. And the county actually was the ones that provided the initial access easement to that property. Lou bought some of that property owner's property when he did that industrial development to the south and west, and that property became landlocked. And so the county actually did the access easement that serves the property right now, and it's 40 feet wide and provides that access.
there is a distinction. It has access. It meets the state statute's requirement that every property has access to public right-of-way. What it doesn't meet, and the basis for staff's recommendation, is under the subdivision regulations within the city of Park City, it says that every property has to abut or adjoin public right-of-way. And so in this case, it has access, it just doesn't abut public right-of-way. And I think one of the mitigating circumstances here, as you look at this photograph, is the city limits of Park City. I don't have anything, I don't think that has a cursor there. But to the property owner directly to the north, that's Dick Robertson. He runs a tree farm there. That property is actually in the county. 69th Street that runs on the north is county right-of-way. In other words, the city of Park City doesn't even have public right-of-way for us to abut. Park City owns, or the property that you see is all in the city of Park City, as well as the property to the west is in the city of Park City. But the property owner to the north of us and the one on the north, to the north of our property, we have the property on the east side of the ditch as well, as you guys might remember. But like the property owner to the north, Steve Simon, his property, those are in the county. So, I mean, to a certain extent, we can't fulfill the county's requirements because we don't have access to the county right away. But I want to go back to my comment. We can't see the forest because of the tree. And I don't know, I'm trying to remember if any of you served on planning commission yourselves in the past, but I'd like to just point out real quickly from their subdivision regs what the purpose of platting is. And some of you may know, some of you may not know what a subdivision plat is. If you think about land and division, we talk about sections, we talk about quarter sections, we talk about the west 80 of the northwest quarter or the east 80 of the northwest quarter. And when properties got to be subdivided, there were lengthy legal descriptions. If you guys have looked at the legal description, meets and bounds description for the Starbond District for Champtown, that was in the Ark Valley News this last week. It was a page and a half of Ark Valley News meets and bounds legal description. And you can imagine if you're a surveyor or a abstractor or title company trying to follow these legal descriptions. And so one of the things that platting does is it simply consolidates and simplifies the legal description. It's a lot easier to say lot 1, block 1 of Park City edition than it is to say commencing at a point, 600 feet of the northwest corner of the northwest quarter of section 23, et cetera, et cetera. So platting in itself is just a planning tool for the orderly development of the subdivisions within the city, and that's what your subdivision regs talk about. It's under section 101. I don't know if any of you have ever had the opportunity to read it, but in that it talks about it's the initial step in the development process. And so when we talk about development, there are many, many, many factors that come into play in development. And some of those factors that we look at in the subdivision plat are articulated further under this section 101. It goes from A to K, which is 11 items, and it talks about drainage, it talks about street right-of-way, it talks about utilities, it talks about a whole host of things that we address at platting. And the most important thing I think that gets missed is that the plat in and of itself doesn't guarantee a development happens. You can plat a property if it's not zoned. There's no requirement to zone a property to plat a property. You can't pull a building permit by right if a property is platted. It doesn't guarantee you a right to pull a building permit, but it does resolve other items that go into effect in consideration for development, like utility easements, like how do you want to handle drainage. And as a developer and as a consultant for 30 years prior to becoming a developer, we looked at all those things and all those factors that get flagged up in a plat that affect the value of a property. For instance, in this case, if I have to do a subdivision plat and I have to go to Dick Robertson and say, Dick, the 40-foot easement isn't right, the city's requiring me to buy 60 foot of right-of-way off you, there's a cost associated with that. And that cost is a negative against the land. If the city says you have to go in and extend sanitary sewer and the nearest sanitary sewer is on Broadway, and I gotta bring a lift station and sanitary sewer 1,300 feet across my other property to get sewer service to the site, there's a cost there. Just because it's platted doesn't allow me to pull a building permit until I satisfy all these other conditions. And so I think in the discussion, when we get hung up on this aspect of it doesn't meet within the bright lines of the subdivision regulations, we lose sight of what is really the goal that we're trying to have here. Now, from my perspective, platting the property doesn't cost the city anything. In fact, if we don't plat the property, I gotta stand here in front of you and say, what benefit is it of that property to even be in the city of Park City? What benefit do you guys provide me for that land? It has no sewer, it has no water, it has no access. It's not needed for fire protection back there. There's no police activities back there. It's farm field. Why should it be in the city? But platting the property does do me a benefit, and it costs me money. There's a cost to me to do this. No cost to the city, but the platting allows me to resolve entitlement issues, to allow me to get financing, establish the value of the property. So bankers, appraisers, they can accurately value the land, and it helps us in the conduct of our business. And so my frustration, I guess, is that we kind of got hung up in this, bright light. It doesn't meet this, doesn't check every box within our subdivision regulations. And for those of you who knew me for 30 years doing consulting, I always say, so what, I mean, what's the guidelines? What's the intent? All, I think, operating in businesses in areas where not everything fits in the box. There's always that 1% where something doesn't fit in the box. How do you handle it? You handle it that way, calmly. So if it doesn't fit in the box, how do you handle it? You just apply common sense. What's our general goal here? And our general goal is look at the orderly development of the city, identify the things that are going to be required for it to be developed. I accept those, but it helps me without any cost to the city to allow this process to go forward. And so that's the basis of my appeal. There was as I understand it, an offer to put a deed restriction, a zoning declaration that said no development will occur until public street would be extended. I find that acceptable, and would just ask that the county adopt that declaration and the conditions of the plat and allow it to move forward. Be happy to answer any questions.
Jim.
Tim or Russ, I'm not sure who the question would be to, but okay, it seems like this is Park City, we want things to be developed. We've always been pretty supportive of that. Sounds like accessibility may be the primary issue here. How do we rectify that?
Well, I'll let Russ speak to it, but as I understand it, the accessibility is that there is accessibility. So that's not a question of accessibility.
Not all those lots are accessible by a street, if I'm gathering that right.
All the property is accessible by a private egress easement. It's 40 feet wide. It was rocked by the county with like 2-inch crushed rock. So it's not a question of accessibility. It's a question of whether it abuts public right of way. And so as I understand the declaration was to limit no industrial development because it is zoned. You guys zoned it about 2 months ago to industrial at our request. It is zoned industrial, but they said you can't develop it as industrial property until a street's extended. And that was, as I understand, was the compromise. Russ can speak to it further if he wants. But I think that makes sense to me.
Okay. Let's see what Russ.
So as I mentioned previously, when staff recommends denial, we also include an option for Planning Commission to recommend approval, supersede or override staff's opinion on the denial, approve it with conditions, as a, for lack of a better term, a Plan B. And that's what I believe Mr. Austin was talking about. And I think he did correct himself there at the end by calling it a private access easement, which you can kind of see. It's the thin white line just coming along the west side of that drainage channel to 69th Street. And so, Yeah, and so I provided the planning commission, and it should be in your packet as well. Not only the applicant's offered declaration to limit the intensity of the site, in staff's opinion, it did not do anything to limit the intensity of industrial traffic that would go along there. The point within, if one were to have read that private agreement that Sedgwick County did for accessing those, initially there were 3 tracks when that agreement was done. They have platted the north 2/3 or north 3/4 of that property is already platted as Reserve A North Park Industrial Edition. So, of course, that's true. State law requires them to provide access, which they did. Private access. Not for cement trucks, not for 18-wheelers, not for you and I to go pick up some lawn and garden supplies, not a publicly dedicated street to our design standards, which is, of course, the crux of the issue. And Tim is right. Subdivision regulations always, as with zoning regulations, state an intent and purpose. Why are we doing this? B is to provide for the efficient and orderly layout of streets. H, to facilitate safely by adequate access for firefighting equipment and police protection. Sedgwick County Sedgwick County Fire Department has already said that this is an inadequate access road to serve an industrial development. So yes, this plat doesn't check all the boxes, but I would argue, and I believe the Planning Commission brought forward a recommendation based on the fact that it doesn't check the primary main box in our subdivision checklist. So from that standpoint, yes. I believe also I had mentioned a minimum of 3 times to the Planning Commission, the idea that planning commissions can approve plats, or I should say modification to the design standards within our subdivision regulations and go by, thereby approve the plat. That offer was made 3 times at the beginning, in the middle, and the end of our discussion. And clearly 5 members of the Planning Commission in attendance that evening chose not to agree with that or agree to override staff. Likewise, the idea of putting some sort of deed restriction on the property, in effect making it undevelopable, was something that they did not subscribe to either. So from that standpoint, it was a fairly clear process from going to the recommendation of a denial. And I'll stand for any other questions you may have.
Charles?
Got a couple of questions. First of all, I'd like to know what the purpose of the property, if it's zoned industrial right now, is there going to be a industrial purpose for that property if the plat goes through, if the plat is passed?
Let me interject, Charles. This is an appeal of a decision from the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission's decision is a final one. They either accept or deny the plat. Your part in this is, if a plat is approved by the Planning Commission, it's then sent to the governing body for its acceptance of the dedicated rights-of-way and easements. That's your job. Your job tonight is to decide whether the action of the Planning Commission was reasonable. So if you find it was reasonable, you should deny the appeal. If you found it was unreasonable, you should tell them what you find is unreasonable. I'm sorry, I interjected.
Okay.
Go ahead and ask that question, but that's really those sorts of questions, I think Russ will say, are really irrelevant to the decision that the Planning Commission made. But the discussion here is really how reasonable do you find, or unreasonable, the decision of your Planning Commission?
Okay, can there was a compromise, and can you reiterate the compromise so we can understand that?
He's talking about the deed restriction.
There had been several statements made about no intention of developing this property. And there had been nothing supplied by the applicant or any indication by the applicant in writing that that would be the case. And they made that offer during the proceeding of August 18th. At which time I had mentioned to the Planning Commission that you, as I had mentioned prior to the Planning Commission, you have the ability to override my recommendation, approve it subject to conditions. And if you now wish to enter into this deed restriction, that is available to you, but certainly staff is pretty steadfast in its recommendation.
I just have a question.
Yes, sir.
Deed restriction, I'm just wondering if this went back to the planning commission with a written deed restriction that was drawn up, would that be something that, I guess, more concrete for them to consider? Because it sounds like it was like, yeah, we can do a deed restriction, but we already have in writing, you know what I'm saying? We already have in writing the recommendation from you and the recommendation to override. I'm just wondering if it went back to the planning commission and they had that deed restriction in front of them, would that be a consideration?
I wouldn't be able to speak on behalf of the planning commissioners. It seemed like a pretty cut and dried decision.
I got you. So who made the suggestion of the deed restriction? Was that the applicant or was that?
Yes, she's in attendance tonight.
Okay, I'm open for further discussion from council. I just, thank you, Russ.
So we could send it back to Planning Commission with the deed restriction in front of them and have them look at it again? Is that the deal?
We're not writing the deed restriction, no. I don't, I mean, we don't have the minutes of their meeting. Tim?
I just want to just appreciate an opportunity to just respond a little bit. My understanding, and my agent is here to address that question. My understanding was that it was offered by Russ as a planning director. Those things are back and forth. I think I would just let you know to send it back. We can prepare for their consideration. I think that's a viable, reasonable solution to do that. But one of the things I want to, again, just reemphasize, because I appreciate what Russ does. Russ and I have worked together for 30 years, and we've worked together for Ed Boffman. We've been on each side. We've helped each other. We've been opposed to each other. We have a long history, and I respect Russ, and he's a friend. But I just want to clear one thing in your guys' mind. Comments that when we say the Sedgwick County Fire Department can address it, if there's no development there in the future, what's different tomorrow than there is today? If there's a grass fire back there, the road is the road is the road. The access is the access is the access. So I don't care that the fire department is worried about some future road. The deed restriction will eliminate that question. What the goal here is to get the plat. We've identified the requirements. What's out there today will be out there tomorrow. And the declaration, the deed restriction keeps it the same. I just want to clarify that, because all this other discussion, it's always about what if this, what if that, hypotheticals. And the reality is it's just, the whole goal here for me as the developer, for my financing, is just to get that resolved, get those identified, and say I have a platted property. So when I go to the appraiser, he says it's a platted property, and he checks his box. The other thing, and I don't know that you guys know this, but it was brought up at the Planning Commission, again, hypothetical. Right across the ditch to the west is a public radio tower that's exactly in the same position as ours. It's a subdivision plat with access, but not to public right-of-way. And it was approved by your Planning Commission and a prior city council a number of years ago. And again, the hypothetical is well, as I understand from the discussion, was they said, well, yeah, but it's a radio tower and only a couple people, maintenance people. Yeah, but there's no deed restriction that limits it to a tower. If I go buy that tower and I tear it down, I have a platted lot, an industrial zone piece of property, I could redevelop it. So I'm just saying in context, when I say again, what's the forest here and what's the tree in front of us?
And I want to address the comment you said about the fire department. I think there is no deed restriction right now. I think that's what he's meaning is, as it sits today, the fire department says it's not adequate. I think that's what it's.
They have access. They will do what they do. And the other thing I want to clarify on, Russ, is that the access agreement that was negotiated by the county does not restrict its uses. It simply says that the adequate, or the access that is provided, it notes to those property owners that sign that access easement that it may not fulfill the subdivision regulations for future development. That's all it says, but it doesn't say they can't run semi-trailers. Dick Robertson with his tree farm is running semi-trailers down there. So there's no restriction on that. I want to clarify that. It has access, it just doesn't have public access, but there's no limitations on it. And again, with the deed restriction, after the deed restriction, the property's platted, but in terms of, as the property sits there today, it'll be the same as tomorrow. Thank you.
Charlie?
Russ, just a question for you, just to help me understand, because I've heard a lot from both of you. So the crux of the issue is the private access on the west side. What is the rectification to make that public access, or is there one?
I think I would have to agree with Tim in his earlier comments that you would have to purchase property off of the Robertson tract of an additional 30 feet. We need 70 feet of total right-of-way.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion or question? Okay, the planning commission recommended denial of the final plat 5-1. Suggested motions for our action tonight is uphold the planning commission's denial of the final plat. Option 2 is overrule the planning commission's denial of the final plat with stated reasons and return the application to the planning commission for consideration for reapproval. And option 3 is request additional information and defer final action. Jim?
I'm going to back the planning commission's ruling and suggest that a motion that we uphold the planning commission's denial of final plat.
Is that a motion?
Yes, I make a motion to do that. I was trying to read how we had it written down here.
Charlie?
I'll second.
Mayor and council?
Yes.
I have a suggestion. In the event that this motion passes, if it could be directed for the city attorney to prepare an order upholding the decision of the planning commission and then providing findings of fact that support that decision, and I'll bring that back for a final approval at the next meeting. So you can vote, if your vote is in the affirmative, I would like it to include a direction to the city attorney to provide an order to that effect with supporting findings, because the next level here for the applicant is to appeal this to the district court. And it's helpful for you to have findings that support your decision to uphold the reasonableness of the planning commission's decision.
Okay, Jim, is that part of your motion?
Yes, it would be.
Charlie, is that part of your second?
Yes.
Thank you.
Could you reread the entire motion again?
It's option
Or is
one.
it, it's just option one?
Uphold the planning commission's denial of the final
Okay.
plat. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes, I make the motion to uphold the planning commission's denial of the final plat, and if it succeeds in its vote to follow Doug's guidelines there.
Clerk, did you get that?
Got it.
And do we need to do a roll call vote on this one, or are we good? At large vote?
Governing body vote.
Yes, gotcha. Okay, motion by Jim to uphold the planning commission's denial of the final plat, seconded by Charlie Davidson. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-2. Okay, next, item 6. Discuss and consider a resolution fixing a time and place for a hearing to determine whether the structure at 5755 North Broadway Avenue should be condemned and ordered repaired or demolished. Doug?
Mayor and council, the heading that the mayor just read is absolutely correct. The body of the staff report, I apologize, it got through on word processing, and it's really a step ahead. Tonight, the only action you're taking is to just establish the hearing date for the public hearing on whether to take further action to demolish this property. So there's no reason to consider the condition of the property tonight or look at slides or any pictures. I apologize for the confusion. So it's just a resolution setting the date of October 14th. I believe that's the date. October 14th at 7 o'clock. where the property owner would have an opportunity to come forward and either say that they've corrected it, or they have a plan, or to explain the situation to you, and then staff would present you photographs and an evaluation of why it's dangerous and unsafe.
Okay, I do have somebody signed up, but I would entertain a motion, and then we'll have the discussion, and then I would allow the public comment. Troy?
I'll make a motion to set the date for this property at 5755 North Broadway Avenue for 10/14/2025.
For a public hearing.
For a public hearing.
Can you say approve resolution 12?
I move to approve
1260.
Resolution 1216, 2020,
1266, 2025.
1266, 2025. It's been a long night.
Okay, and Troy, do I have a second? Charlie?
Second.
Okay, I have signed up. Are you Harry Sayers? Yeah. And then I have one other person. Is it Keely?
So, yeah, I'm representing the property there at 5755. We were not notified.
I might be able to save you a little bit of time. So tonight, we're just setting the hearing. That'll be October 14th. That might be when you want to come and talk, but is that?
We're planning on, what we were coming here tonight was to let you know that we intend to tear it down, and we have already started the process, but we were going to ask for November timeframe, but you've already approved.
There's no approval. You're welcome to come back October 14th, report on your progress, and then if you need more time, you can make that presentation.
That's fine. I'll save everybody some time.
So are you saying that you're starting the tear down of it immediately?
Yeah, we've gotten 3 quotes right now, so, I mean, we haven't actually started, but we're getting there.
When you come in here October 14th, you might have news for us.
Yep, that'll work.
Great. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, we had a motion by Troy, seconded by Charlie. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Long night for you tonight, Charlie.
On to item 7, discuss and consider approval of a bid from Conspec, doing business as Kansas Paving for water, sewer, and paving improvements for Briar Brook 2nd Edition. Sean?
Yes, sir. Briar Brook 2nd Edition is located east of Broadway and just north of Saddlebrook neighborhood. The developer presented and council-approved petitions for water, sanitary, sewer, and pavements back in May of 2024. A bid opening was conducted on August 21st with a total of 6 companies submitting bids. Conspec DBA Kansas Paving submitted the lowest bid of $1,402,388.50, which was below the engineer's overall estimate of $1,517,319. Attached is a copy of the bid tabulation. As far as the fiscal impact, it is authorized and funded via temporary financing followed by long-term general obligation bonds. Staff recommends approval of the bid tab and authorizing the mayor to finalize a contract with Conspec DBA Kansas Paving in the amount not to exceed $1,402,388.50.
Thank you, Charlie.
I move to approve the bid tabulation, authorizing the mayor to finalize and execute a contract with Conspec DPA Kansas Paving in the amount not to exceed $1,402,388.50.
Thank you, Troy.
Second.
Okay, seeing no further discussion. Motion by Charlie, seconded by Troy. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 8-0. Item 8, discuss and consider approving request to extend levying special assessments on Briar Brook 2nd Edition to 3 years.
Yes, sir. During the August 12th meeting, the developer, Briar Brook 2nd, requested council consider delaying the levying of special assessments from 2 to 3 years specifically for this addition due to the size of the development and the additional cost of the infrastructure improvements needed. Currently, depending on when the infrastructure improvements are completed in the city's normal cycle of issuing temporary notes and general obligation bond, it ranges approximately between 1.5 to 2.5 years before special assessments are levied against benefited properties. Delaying the levying of special assessments an extra year does incur an additional year of interest and carrying cost that ultimately does get passed on to the end user of the property. Under KSA 10-123, the governing body may issue temporary notes for improvements which the municipality is authorized to finance by the issuance of bonds with a maturity date of not later than 4 years from the date of the note. Under the federal tax rules, though, capitalized interest on temporary notes and bonds issued for the project cannot exceed 3 years. Temporary notes, as far as the physical impact, do capitalize the interest and carrying cost during the duration of the note. So there is no additional cost to the city, but the extra years of interest, as I said, would be added to the subsequent general obligation bond and ultimately paid for by the end user. Staff has no recommendation on this item.
Council? Randy?
Sean, do you know what the other entities around us, what are they doing? Are they doing 2 years, 3 years?
The other cities.
It widely varies. There are some that are a year, some that are trying to get them in on as soon as possible. There are some that issue temporary notes before they even start projects, where we're usually taking on the project and paying for it somewhat out of pocket before we even go to temporary notes. So I do believe the policy that we have is somewhat generous in nature. The fact that we have kind of told all the developers around that depending on when the infrastructure is completed, just because there are some cycles. You know, we normally do the bonds right around the July, August time period. So if you hit it right, it could end up being 2 years already, or it could be 1.5 years. It just varies from city to city.
Okay.
Charles?
Is this extension to 3 years, is it being done in other development areas?
Not currently in the city, no.
How about like in other cities, Wichita and surrounding cities?
That I'm unaware of, sir.
Just to be clear, so how we do these, they're on temporary notes for that term of 3 years. And then after the term of 3 years, they're sold and it's all paid through the special assessments. It just gives an extra year for the developer to get permits, like occupancy permits, filled.
That is correct.
Anything to add on that?
The infrastructure is completed. We turn right around and issue a temporary note. The interest is capitalized throughout that, so we pay for the improvements themselves and then the interest of the carrying costs for the temporary notes. And then at the duration of those 3 years down the road or 2 years down the road, we go ahead and turn that into a general obligation bond. And usually when we turn it into a general obligation bond, that's the time when Larry Kleeman comes out and we actually formally assess the property owners. That gives a builder or a developer approximately 1.5 to 2.5 years to get in there. Once the infrastructure's done, get the houses built, get them sold, so that by the time the specials are kicking in, they're not having to pay the specials. It's the ultimate property owner that's paying the specials on the house. By delaying it an extra year, you do have the additional interest or carrying costs that, again, gets tacked on to the general obligation note and ultimately gets passed on to the consumer.
So let's say they have a development of 50 houses.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, from the time they put the streets, the water, the sewer and everything in, obviously the loans and everything have to pay the contractors to put all that stuff in. They're on temporary notes for 2 years. And as what that does is the developer has to sell lots. And then after that, like right now, we do 2 years. So if those lots haven't sold, the developer is paying the specials on each lot. So adding another year gives them another year to have like people living in the houses making that payment instead of the developer.
Is this a much larger development than what we normally see in Park City?
It is a rather large development. It is twice the size of what he has done previously. We do have a developer of High Ridge. Had all of High Ridge been done at the exact same time, it probably would have been in the exact same situation. But High Ridge was kind of broken up because of the land bank and bought and developed in smaller pieces. Whereas this one, according to the way that the developer presented it to council, his words, not mine, a much larger development that had much more increased cost just due to its sheer size. Building an additional lift station just to service it, and it's a oversized lift station because it's taking care of a larger area than just this development. But there's a rather large detention pond. It's a sizable development. But he came to council and made the request as his right, and so that's the reason why there's no recommendation for staff in this particular case. It does incur an additional year of interest, but that ultimately gets paid for. So to the city, no additional cost.
Good?
Got it, but I'm not sure which way we should go.
Troy?
I mean, does anybody else have any questions? If not, I'll make a move to extend the levy special assessments on Briarbrook second edition for 3 years.
Oh,
Next in line is Jim. Are you going to second?
I was going to second with comment.
All right. Sorry, Charlie.
For
You lost-
discussion.
you missed your spot.
No, I was just going to say,
Finger.
we're not talking about changing our practices. This is one
thing.
one request on one project that's very large.
If you remember, he came in
I
a month
remember.
or so ago
Yeah.
and asked, and we did not take action, but Sean said, do we do it or what? And I said, no, we'll bring it to the council, let the council decide, because I don't want to change the policy and just automatically give people 3 years. I think it needs to be something that come before us, tell us your case, and that's what's been done here.
And I'm reading it that way here to, the motion is to extend levying the special assessments on Briarbrook second edition to 3 years. It's not talking about a policy, it's not talking about future projects, it's talking about this one. And because of that, I would second it.
Yes, thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, motion by Troy, seconded by Jim, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 8-0. Item 9, discuss and consider approval of additional projects for the 2025 street rehabilitation project.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In July, Council approved a contract with Pearson Construction for the 2025 street rehabilitation project, which included a 2-inch mill and overlay and full-depth concrete replacement. All the bids for that project were well below the engineer's estimate, prompting staff to research additional project options. Staff has identified 5 construction-ready projects that could be added to the existing contract via a change order. Pearson Construction has agreed to provide the services at the same low bid rate as the initial street rehabilitation projects, and the additional projects are as listed. A full-depth 9-inch concrete replacement extension from the original project planned for Hatton Drive. This would extend the area to be replaced further south to the Beaumont connection. I have provided you with an updated map that I think might be a little more clear than what was in the packet as to what the original area was versus the proposed addition on Hatton Drive. We're also proposing to add to the 2-inch mill and overlay projects, first with 53rd Street, 500 feet west of Broadway to the west city limits, with the exception of the area adjacent to the railroad. Railroads do require permitting. We're not sure we can get through the permitting process in time to allow us to do that small section adjacent to the railroad. If we do, we would come back and ask to include that as well. It also includes Cambridge Court, Burlington Court, and Sunny Slope Court, all 3 of which are adjacent to Upchurch, which was on the previously approved list. Approval of this change order would put the total contract at $1,294,248.60 for the 2025 street rehabilitation program. This is a budgeted item to be paid from the Special Streets and Highway Fund. Staff does recommend approval of a change order not to exceed $263,797.70. And I stand for any questions you may have.
Jim?
Apologize if you said that. Or said this, but I was reading, why just part of Hatton Drive? Why not go all the way back to the school or the car dealership?
That is the area that's most efficient. There are a lot of flaws within the area we've proposed. With the full-depth concrete replacement, it is costly. And so leading into our bid, we had kind of decided, let's have a second alternate in case bids come in favorably. And so all of the survey and the design had been done for that area, not knowing what bids were going to look like.
Okay.
Charles?
Yeah, I was just going to say the Hatton Drive extension, wish we had the money to do it all the way up into but that was well needed. The 53rd Street, that really needs that. That's a street that people come into Park City on, and it's in bad shape. So I appreciate you picking out that one. Then I drove the Cambridge, Burlington, and Sunny Slope, and those are all nice residential areas that the roads, if they get a recap right now, they'll last for a much longer time. So I think that was a good choice also.
Thank you. Terry?
Just a question on the 53rd Street. I mean, it says, end at the west line of the newer surfaced asphalt, which I've driven that several times, and I guess it appears to me that the west end of that is farther east than what this picture depicts here. So that the newer surfaced asphalt, from Broadway west is actually closer to the welding shop that's there, whatever it is, than it depicts in the aerial photo. Maybe I'm just missing that.
So it's pretty close to that first structure on the north side of 53rd, closest to the Broadway intersection. And that had all been improved previously. So the graphic may be off slightly, but it goes up to that bridge on the west side. It leads up to that bridge. And then there's a small portion on the other side of the bridge, part of which is owned and maintained by the railroad and would require that permit. So if we can get that permit to go through in time, we would do that segment to the west of the bridge as well.
Yeah, I think I'm understanding where it's going to. Maybe the picture doesn't depict it far enough east in my, I guess in my thought, but so from what's actually there, that's just my question there, so.
If we don't have anything else, I'd move to approve the change order with Pearson Construction in the amount not to exceed $263,797.70 to be paid from the Special Streets and Highway Fund.
Charlie Davidson?
Second.
Okay.
I could learn to read out loud.
For a little history lesson on Broadway, on 53rd Street, that first structure west of Broadway on the north side, that is our old police station and Public Works building. Not that long ago, really, right, Chief? 10 years? Yeah, that was Public Works and the police station. Okay. Motion by Troy, seconded by Charlie Davidson. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you.
We'll start. Gina, Poston. You got the message on Poston I meant to say that, I'm sorry, I had that picture pulled up and I saw you're really knocking out all that stuff up in Sunny Slope, which is great. The furthest North Street, and then it had Cambridge, Burlington, Cambridge, no, it's Cambridge Court, but Sunny Slope. On the far east, that's Poston had a big low spot. Did you see that already?
I did, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll patch that, since it's not in the area for improvement this year.
Darn it.
We will patch it. It's not uncommon with what we're seeing in a lot of different areas within our residential, where we're just getting that rutting and that pushing up next to the curb. And they do become more extensive because generally we have to cut the curb out to help match the flow and keep water moving in that curb line. The asphalt, I think, is pushing up underneath the curb itself and popping those in some areas.
Is that from like trash trucks or?
It could be. It could be from oversized trash trucks, but usually you want to put your asphalt thickness a little more on those areas of the road. And so it could just be install methods at the time didn't reflect that construction method. It may just not be as thick there as we would do on a new road today if we were asphalting.
Trying to think, I want to say that was probably about a 2005-ish street when that one was put in, somewhere around there, 03, 05. Okay, thank you.
Yeah,
very much.
no
Appreciate
problem.
it. Okay, next we're on the council comments. Charlie?
Great discussion tonight. I'm excited about Champstown and the next steps. I know it's very difficult for me to finish my basement and figure out what color doors and carpet to put in. I can imagine the complexity of this project. So thank you to staff for your hard work and to working with the other partners on that project. That's it.
Thank you, Charlie. George Glover?
Yeah, it's good to see that we're moving along on some of these road projects. I know it's been some time that we've gotten together to figure out which ones we need to do first, so I appreciate all the work that you guys do on getting that ironed out, and it's really upgrading the way Park City looks. Thank you.
Linda?
I got nothing tonight.
Charles?
I would like to say that I think the staff has done a good job on mowing some of the weeds. We're mowing some of the weeds that we haven't mowed before that are actually places where landowners should be taking care of them, and they're not, and they won't. And so I'm glad to see some of that stuff just taken care of. If we bill them, that's fine. If we don't, it's fine. I don't know, but I appreciate the job that the staff is doing on that.
That's it?
That's it, yep.
All right. Terry?
Nothing for me tonight.
Troy?
I'm just super excited about Champtown. I know it's a long way to go and there's still a long process, but it's nice to see some movement on it and hopefully it comes to fruition. That's all I got.
Very good. Frank?
Nothing.
Nothing further to add.
Okay. So I'll add the Mueller grand opening Sean sent out. I won't be there, so Charles is going to be in charge. I think that's
Charles in charge.
Charles in charge.
Now that I'm a TV star,
yes. And then, just for the record, the discussion tonight from the nice lady that stood up and was doing public comment, hers is, I think we all know where she's from, but the complaint she was having was the grass on the west side of Hydraulic, probably about 6,600. I think we're all familiar with that area, but if that might need some attention to it, so just so it's official that what she was talking about. And that's all I have. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I know where that's at.
Jim?
I'd move we adjourn.
Terry?
Second.
Motion by Jim, second by Terry. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Hope that goes.
8-0.
I think so. Yeah, sure.
She had an MRI or anything done?
Having problems with my
She sees the doctor tomorrow who can order it.
Sounds personal.